think about child toys, girls always have prams. We have a baby Born, we have a baby Annabelle. Yes. And with a boy, you get to have trucks and
superheroes.
Anything. Honestly. And it shows us that you're telling a boy child, you have all this possibility and all this creativity and all these endless options for career. And you're telling a girl child, your purpose is procreation. Go push that pram around the playground.
Hi, I'm Lisa.
Hi, I'm Linda E.
I'm Sophie Hannah.
And I'm Luanda Yasmin. Welcome to the 6th episode of Ethnically Speaking. We are for smart, curious, opinionated and highly melanated women. Here representing the UK, we are going to talk about anything and everything affecting our communities, from pop culture to politics and everything in between. Absolutely nothing is off limits, and we always promise to keep it 100% real. So forget tiptoeing around topics and technically speaking, because today we are ethnically speaking. So last week we asked you to share with us your pet peeves from sharing a space with someone, whether you're living with your family, your friends or your partner. And at the end of the episode, we will be reading out our favourite one, so stay tuned for that. But for now, Anissa, what is on your mind?
So, firstly, the fertility rate. And for those who don't know much about fertility rate, it's basically the average amount of children that a woman has. Basically, the fertility rate is falling globally. So some experts have said that by 2100 or 2100, I think I never know say that. Do you know what? I'm not sure how to say a year.
Yeah.
Wait.
Will I be alive by then? I don't know.
No.
Anyway, by 2100, some experts say by 2100, more than half of some countries' populations would have halved. So my question is, why do you think some women are choosing to have fewer children or no children at all?
I don't want to answer a question with a question, but are we saying that, sorry, I don't want to make it difficult, but are we saying that women are choosing to have less children or women have more choice? Because I think that that's something that is really linked to, because let's say earlier on in 1970s, that's really when contraception came in. And due to the rise in contraception, more education for women, it means that women now have autonomy over their bodies, so they're choosing to either to have less children or to have no children. So I think, for me, one of the reasons is because women actually I don't want to have 4 or 5 children. And before, the pulling out method is not contraception, and if that was the only thing that people had, then it wasn't foolproof. So now we're in a position where women can decide and make the choice, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of women choosing that having children or having 5, 6 children is not for me.
Don't let your mans tell you he's pulling out, ladies. Strap it up. That's how I feel. I guess I agree with that a little bit, because I think I really appreciate the fact that we as women in this country get to choose whether or not we're going to be pregnant. And I do think that makes a massive difference. I also think that motherhood for women is seen as something that we're supposed to aspire to, whereas with men, them being fathers kind of seems as something that just happens in your adult life. And then there's also this perception that they're supposed to be bad at it, or they're allowed to be bad at it. And when they are successful at being a parent, they're successful within a 2-parent household, within a couple. So I definitely appreciate the choice of do I want to be pregnant, or shall I, not be? But I think I kind of have a little bit more of a morbid idea as to why people don't want to
hear it. Why?
Because the way
you roped me in.
Go on.
I think maybe people don't want to have kids because of the future that they'll be bringing their babies into. And I saw I saw a sign at a protest that I really liked, and it said it was a climate crisis 30 years ago. And so now what we're looking at is children. I don't know if you guys know about this already, but children have been suing their government because they've been complicit in global warming and climate change. There was a case in the Netherlands where a group of young people actually won their case, and the court ordered the government to curb carbon emissions by 25%. And there was a 7-year-old girl in Pakistan who sued her government. There was high schoolers in America, and there was a bunch of kids in Colombia as well. So this is we're seeing a recurring pattern, because they know in another 30 years we're going to have global warming refugees, and currently the sea levels are rising at the fastest rate that we've seen in 3,000 years. And as a testament to that, Indonesia actually moved their capital, well, not physically moved the capital, but they changed the place of their capital because their original capital, Jakarta, has already begun flooding. So I think, Jakarta has literally already begun to flood. So they're looking at, what other city can be the capital now? So I think maybe people don't want to have children because they don't know what kind of world will be left for them to inhabit.
YouGov has definitely said that one of the reasons that people aren't having children is because of climate change and the state of the world. So it is true.
Things I kind of agree to an extent, and I think part of it also is just the cost of everything.
Yes, girl. Yes.
It's crazy. I know I don't have any children, but I know the cost of childcare is ridiculously expensive.
It's a wage.
It's literally a whole wage, and then you're thinking, having to take time off work and maternity pay, and how much money am I going to be earning during maternity pay, and then you just being able to afford a good quality of life. So I think the fact that living is so expensive, it is putting some people off, having children.
100%.
Yeah, I think definitely it's so true, because I was talking to my husband talking about having children. He would want to have more children than I would want to have.
How many do you want?
I want two and we're done. If I can get twins, I'ma take it. As fewer pregnancies as I can have to have two, I'ma do it.
Do you know what?
I'd have 4 kids.
But do you know what?
Me too. I want 4.
4?
Yeah, but I think it's because I come from like a 4-sibling household.
Same.
So I just want to recreate what we have.
Everyone has a friend.
No,
exactly.
I come from a many sibling household, and I think it has drove me the other way.
How many in total?
Do siblings do I have?
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit of a hard number, and the reason why I say hard number, because I'd like to just say, okay, let me just say the ones that I speak to. That makes it easier questions to decipher. So the ones that I
say no more, girl. Say no more.
Yeah, the ones that I speak to, I've got 6 brothers, and then I've got 4 sisters, okay? Wow. But I grew up with the majority of them in the same household. So what I'm saying is, growing up with so many people, it was just like, oh God, no. So it just wasn't
That's
for me.
a school classroom, Anissa.
Yeah,
it is.
It's a football team. There's a football team.
It was not for me, and so yeah, anyway, I mean, when I was thinking about this particular question in my mind, I thought to myself, like, I had to take my own individual self out of it. Does that make sense? Because even like, now that I'm in a, real childbearing age, like, you do think to yourself, like, dang, do I want to have kids, or should I have kids then, or what's the ideal age for me to have kids, or what's the best set? Like, you start to think, you really start to, because motherhood is a real thing at this point, so it's like, wow, like, I really got to think about it. And so, my thoughts about having kids is, up in the air anyway. I haven't fallen on one side of the fence of what I want to do or what I would want to do, but I was thinking of it as an individual level. But when I started thinking of it more on a global scale, I thought to myself, I love that women have choice. But if one day all the women in the world, not that it would ever happen, but if one day all the women in the world decided, nah, I don't want to have any kids anymore, like, population would just cease. Do you know what I mean? And so I really remembered in that moment how imperative and essential women are to the human race, and that we are literally birthing nations and generations, and that I want us to have choice, But at the same time, it's just like there will be repercussions, because if by 2100, sorry, not 2021, if by 2100 the population is halved, that means we're going to have a really old and aging population. So more older people than we have younger people. And what is that going to have an effect on our economy or for welfare? So I was really starting to think about it like that. So I'm kind of twofold about it. I want women to have choice, but I wish that the government, which is easy to say, but I wish the government could help a bit more, in the sense of what Linda was saying. It's so expensive to have children now. Why on earth would I want 4 children if I can't afford it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, but here's the thing. Yes, go on, Sophie.
Sorry, I was just going to say that's what I was like the back end of my conversation with my husband, because I'm just like, if we had 2 children, I'd want to give them a decent life. And then I had to break down what I meant by decent life, because someone could be like, oh, you know, children don't need much. And I'm just like, well, I'd want them to be able to play an instrument, and I'd want them to go on like 1 international holiday a year as a family, and I'd want them to have extracurricular activities. If they want to do dance or ballet or you know, tennis. And I'm like, these things are so expensive, like for 2 children, let alone 4. So ask them, well, why aren't women having more children? I'm like, well, what standard of life can we give them when 100%. Every household nowadays, most households need 2 parents to be bringing in an income. When we're looking at the 1950s, I was looking at a BBC article, and they said how the average children people were having were 4.7. I'm like, well, that was a time when people could survive on 1 income. Like, mothers were staying home, being housewives, and their husbands could make enough money. I went, but nowadays, with 2 people going out to work to have a basic standard of living, I'm not trying to bring children in here to suffer or talk about the only form of entertainment we can have is watching TV.
Is the TV. Now, here's another thing as well, right? So, Anissa, you mentioned about the government helping out, but people who are on benefits get such a bad rep anyway. So what truly can the government do? Because we got to remember this, right?
But I feel like you got cost of living, maybe.
Just a suggestion.
You know what? That's the whole world. But that's the thing. It's going to be a whole world. The whole world's going to have to do that. It's a whole world thing, because what we are charged for our electricity, and what we are charged for our house prices, and what we are charged for clothes and for products, all of these costs are calculated based on external factors, things that are happening in the world. When certain, you know, when the cost of oil went up, you know, petrol went down, or whatnot. So I do think it is a mature kind of a mind frame for someone to say, look, I can't afford to have children and give them a quality, a great quality of life, so let me not have kids right now. Don't forget, there's always the option of, you know, adopting and surrogacy, etc. But still, that is still a child that needs to be cared for. But one more thing I'm going to say, I hate to be Thanos in this conversation.
Oh my gosh, you did not say that.
But I'm just going to say, Thanos, our friend from Marvel Comics, he said that there were not enough resources in the world, so he had to click the hand, and half of the world disappeared. But so.
What, do you think that was right, Linda?
I think he should have doubled the resources personally, but I can't do that. So if we're gonna have less people.
Girl, I'm so sorry, but like what you're saying about Thanos is basically what Luanda was saying, and I think there is truth in it, and I think that's where Marvel was touching on some very real world realities. If we keep burning through all of our resources, we're not going to have anything left. But if we go back to what can the government do, I wasn't even thinking about it in terms of, you know, benefits or housing benefits. One of the things is in Sweden, women there have fantastic maternal healthcare packages at their workplace. And they've said it's raised their fertility rate slightly. So I think it went from like 1.7 to 1.9 because of it. But women can get like their full pay for a year, or women can be off for longer than a year and still have a good wage packet. One of the things,
paternity too.
Exactly. One of the things that is stopping me from having children now, honestly, is because I'm like, if my job doesn't pay me a good wage that I can't survive on, plus my husband's wage, and we have a house, and now we're adding another mouth to it, is this really the time for me to be stopping and having a child knowing I'm not going to get my full % wage? And this is another thing that might be slowing women down in terms of having children. So I think the money aspect of it is definitely there, but I think someone else will probably comment on this, but another thing is childless by choice. Some people are just deciding children are not for me. And that is also a very valid comment.
I was gonna say, I think there's so many women who just don't want to have children, and we need to normalize that, because I have a lot of female friends that just don't see themselves as mothers, and when they talk about it, they're treated as if they're confused. And if you think about the reasons why, like, it makes sense, because when we're growing up, when I was a child, like, if you think about child toys, girls always have prams. We have a baby born, we have a baby Annabelle, and with a boy, you get to have trucks and
superheroes,
anything. And it shows us that you're telling a boy child, you have all this possibility and all this creativity and like all these endless options for career, and you're telling a girl child, your purpose is procreation. Go push that pram around the playground. Go and put a bottle to your baby born. That is your purpose. That is your meaning in life. And so when someone kind of rejects that, they're like, that doesn't make any sense. This is why you're here.
Well, I think this is the thing. I think we're now living in a day and age, and there was an article in McLean's website, and they were talking about maternal guilt and people when they have children, because they feel like society has kind of inbred it in them, like you said, Luanda, they have this maternal guilt that actually, I didn't want to be a mum and now I regret it. So I think it is very important, because we have so much choice. And let's just say in the West, because there's a lot of places in the world where women still don't have the access to education and contraception that we do. But let it be a conscious choice. Think about it. Realize as a woman that your time is running out. We can't have children forever. It's just a fact. But really think about whether you want to be a mother or not. And at least ethnically speaking, we're not going to be judging you either side of the coin.
The only slight thing I'll disagree with you on that, Sophie, is the idea that we can't have children, like we have a running clock, because even if we can't naturally bear children, there are alternative adoptions.
You're right. So let me
become a mother or parent.
That's so true, Linda. So let me just say biologically. So you're right. If you want to do surrogacy or adoption, there's lots of options.
But do we even know that's like for certain? Because even in terms of biology, like we've seen very like elderly women have babies, and I think sometimes the way that we mess with our bodies in a negative way with all of this, like we use the microwave about 3 times a day, and we're living in a certain way that's so far from our natural like origins that it's possible that in a different lifetime we would have been able to give birth to children in our 90s. We don't know.
I don't know if I agree with that one. I feel like
women giving birth.
I think we're starring with a bit of our biology sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That we do have, like, menopause is a real thing. So I think if people are having children at a later age, I think that's an anomaly. That's not the rule. The majority of us, like, from a medical
perspective, saying, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point? We don't know that this was always how our human bodies were supposed to work. Why would it make sense that women have a cutoff point for having babies, but men can be shooting out sperm 88, 89 years old?
That is a question that I cannot answer. What I'm saying is, as a woman, from a medical perspective, we are like, our eggs halve at 35 and then they halve again at 40, and then the viability of those eggs by the time that you're 40 is just like you're at a higher risk for Down syndrome and all other types of things that a child could have. So unfortunately, biologically, at the moment where we are in society, whether it's fair or not, because it's not fair that men can have children up to 90, but biologically, if you want to have a child, for a woman, there is a time period where you need to start thinking, is this what I want or not? Like my mum said to me, she stopped and had children and it was a conscious choice. And I'm just like, but I'm not ready to stop my career yet. And she's just like, you're going to have to make a choice. If you want them biologically, Sophie, you're going to have to make a choice. And that's the choice that I have to make as a woman. Sorry, Linda.
No, it's all good. I feel like what Luanda was saying, just to chime in real quick, is that historically, maybe if we went back 1,000 years or more, then our biology may not be the biology that we have now. It may have been biologically possible to have children at a later age. But it just has me thinking, right? I know there is a bit of there's clearly a patriarchy in this world that we are living in. Yeah, we know this.
Isn't there just?
It is just there for us to see. Now, it had me thinking, I saw this video the other day, and so this girl, she's doing her thing. She's in a park or like a beach kind of. I think she's at like a beach. She's in a bikini, in a 2-piece. She's about to do a little video for the gram, doing her thing and that. And this woman, I want to call her Karen because it seemed like a Karen, came up to her and was like, you see those two boys over there? Those are my sons. Can you cover up your ass because they keep watching you? And I'm just like, okay, wait. Should she not be teaching her sons not to be looking at random women? Or is there such thing as too much skin? Is there, is there an age where we can, especially as women, is there an age where certain things that we wear are no longer, acceptable? What do you think on this one, ladies?
I really hate stories like that. I really do, because I think when you do, I really do, because let that Karen try and at me.
At Luanda Jasmine.
At Luanda Yasmin. Come at me, Karen. I just think it's really saddening to see nudity attached to shame. And I think when you say something, when you go to a young girl and I'm like, can you cover yourself up because my sons are over there? For me, that goes into respectability politics, and respectability politics are these it's a group of regressive ideas that puts the onus on the oppressed party to change something about themselves, to change the way that they experience the world, and they don't make sense at all. So for example, in terms of appearance, they might say something like, pull up your pants and you won't get shot, or cover up and you won't get harassed. And this type of thinking, it never ever keeps anyone safe, and it never ever helps anyone to progress either. So it's really frustrating to me to hear another woman do that to a younger woman. It's ridiculous, and it's completely sexist, because if you think about, you said the woman was in a bikini, right, Linda? Mm-hmm. If we think about swimwear, boys wear trunks, and then elderly men wear trunks, whereas younger women wear bikinis, and then elderly women wear swimsuits. And so what that's telling us is there are rules and regulations for the way that we should be presenting to our bodies to the world, but only if you have a vagina. If you're a man, you can get your wrinkly nipples out, jump in the pool, that's fine. If you're a woman, you need to be thinking about this, that, and that. And it's always from the idea of, like you said, the patriarchy. It's like the male gaze. It's like what we are telling women they can and can't do from the idea that we have of what a straight man wants. And I don't... Go ahead, Sophie.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's definitely ageism, because the Daily Mail came out with a survey saying that 2,000 people that they polled said that 2/3 of them believe that you should stop wearing crop tops at 34 and a bikini at 40. And like you said, I think, are we talking about trunks? It's completely related to...
But Sophie, you're saying ageism, but you're talking about female clothing.
Well, yes, I'm saying it's ageism only related to women. Because for me, my thing is just saying that it's talking about when is the age when a woman is allowed to be less desirable, or less desirable in our eyes. So at 40, we're kind of that's no longer anything we want to be seeing on a woman. You're getting old, you need to cover up, you need to be modest. But like you were saying, with men, we don't have that thing. So I'm thinking it's definitely, for me, it's part ageism, but I think also, like you're saying, it brings in a certain sense of misogyny and sexism.
I think
go on. No, go ahead.
For me, I've had a couple of experiences of this, ladies, and I think it's less ageism. I think it is sexism, misogyny, whatever you want to put it, because as women, so I've had this happen to me twice. I don't want to go into it too much. Let me just go into it. So basically, right? Let me not lie. So it happened to me twice. One was a male member of my family, and the second was a female. So the first one, I was on Facebook, and I think I must have been around 18, 19, 20. And I had this woman who claimed to be an aunt message me and be like, "Oh, Linda, that skirt is a bit short." I said, "Look, if you knew me, you would know that every outfit that I wear, I show my mum first and foremost. She will tell me I look nice, and then I go upon my business. So I do not need you or any Tom, Dick or Harry telling me what is appropriate for me to wear." That was the young Linda, right? And then literally I had the same situation happen to me earlier this Yeah, I kid you not. Last month, 6 weeks ago maximum, I had one of my uncles, who I would say was my favourite uncle, ask me to change my DP because I haven't got a DP on anymore. But it was like I was wearing red long trousers and I wore like a heart-shaped, what kind of top you call it? Like a heart-shaped
shoe kind of thing. Like I know what you're talking about. I forget the name. Like a bodycon kind of.
Yeah, almost like a bodycon, sleeveless, heart-shaped top. So all you could see was just bits of my arms. Basically, the top's like this that I'm wearing today. I know anyone listening, you can't see the top. So go over to YouTube and go and look at this episode so you can see what I'm talking about. And he was like, I said, Uncle, what's wrong with it? He was like, anyone who saw it wouldn't know that you are educated and you are, holding down your career and the jobs you have. And then he even said, and I was like, but Uncle, you can't judge a book by its cover. And if anyone would look at me and think that, then that's more for them. And he was like, he was like, so I'm going back and forwards. He was like, but it reminds me of things that people wear to dance. And I was like, so hold on, the fact that my legs are completely closed. Yeah, my legs are completely covered. And once again, for me, what really gets to me is the fact that it's women changing themselves for men. And it's not to be rude, that Karen and Uncle, I've got love for you, but what needs to happen is that men need to be taught not to objectify women. All of this ties into their view of power. When we talk about things like assault that we've talked about before, it's because men are not taught, look, this is a female, yes, they may be beautiful, but look, don't touch, look, do not judge, do you know what, just don't look, period. That's why we're being told, if you dress a certain way, it's not respectable. Respectable for who? These men need to stop looking.
Linda, I just want to jump in there because I agree with what you're saying, but I don't want to generalize all men because I think it's a cultural thing. I think in Western society, the woman's body has been hypersexualized. So even if we show a little bit of skin, it's provocative, it's raunchy, things like that. But if we flip it on its head, when you're looking at something like more indigenous tribes, everyone's walking around naked and no one is offended by the female body. No one's offended by the male body. No one is looking at it with a complete sexual gaze and it's this massive thing that needs to be deviated. But somehow in the Western world, we have now got to this, we've turned like a complete 180 and been like, actually, like if a woman if her skirt is too short or if her top is too low, it's this, it's that. And men should be taught, but it's this whole thing in this Western world where our bodies are so hypersexualized that we can't do we cannot do anything without being accused of being too overtly sexy or being called out of our name or our question or our characters being called out. It's just like, I can't tell you how over it I actually am. And I would say, yes, I am on the committee of the Skin Out crew. I think everybody does. I like a little bit of skin, honey. I always like a bit of skin. That's just what I like. And not just on women, I love skin on men. So when I see my male friends and they're in a shirt, sometimes like, no, let's button it real low. You got to show them chest. You make them short, you got to show them thigh. I'm like, it's all about the skin, honey. It looks good. And I think it's because my family have been like that. And I don't know, obviously, because, my family are from Jamaica and everything like that. It's a hot country. So people just wear less clothes. So we're just used to having our skin out. And so I'm not offended when I know some people are offended, but when I go to a beach and sometimes there's topless women, I'm not offended by that because I'm not offended by breast. I don't know how to make that make sense. And if I see a man who's even in a Speedo and things aren't completely all together in it, I'm not completely offended because when did the body become so offensive? That is it for me. I can't.
Okay, I've got a question though, lady. Oh, go on, Sophie. No,
do
you know what? Our minds are in sync today, Sophie. I
definitely it's because it's an over sexualization. I think it's so important what you said about understanding that it's also very much cultural. Because I've been to other places where people have breasts out and men can conduct themselves fine and they're not put off.
Exactly.
They're just like it's a breast. Even with this woman who complained at the other woman, I'm just like, your sons have a bottom, so you getting upset because they see a bottom when everyone has one. I'm just like, you're sexualizing it. You're making it more sexual than it is. And when we sexualize women and then we start putting age limits on when that sexiness kind of stops, it's just completely flawed. But go ahead, Linda.
It's too much.
So I've got a little question for you ladies, right? Because I feel like personally, I have been guilty of this. What are your thoughts on Amber Rose and her whole slut walk movement and the whole, not judging a book by its cover. I don't know if you saw that whole thing. She does a slut walk yearly. I think she has done it for 2 years now though. And it's basically her just not glamorizing, but her saying openly she's a hoe and what. What are your thoughts on that?
You already know me, I'm 110% here for the slut walk. If I was in like a close proximity to one, I would take myself there. Because I think people need to absolutely understand what her point is. And this is why we're having these conversations, because I agree with everything that you have all just said about it's our culture and the way that we look at nudity. Like, nudity should not be attached to shame. It should not be attached to low morals. And it certainly should not be attached to consent either. And everyone always thinks, oh, maybe that's a wild jump, but it's not, because if you add shame to something, then you're adding sin to it as well. So that's why, you know, a couple of weeks ago when we spoke about that girl who had her thong held up in the courtroom as a sign of consent, we were all horrified. But also those ideologies are going to also come from, you know, little old Karen over here telling my girl to cover her butt. Yeah. And you know what I mean? So it all connects. And I think another thing that's within this too much skin conversation, I think slim privilege is within this as well, because we've all seen there are certain clothes that slim women are allowed to wear. Like, you can wear a bralette to go out to eat and you can be cute and classy. You can go to a club and whatever. Have a bigger girl wear a bralette and she's going to be wholly inappropriate. She's going to be called all types of names. Like, so many bad things are going to happen to her. So there's even like you were saying about there's regulations when it comes to age. There's also regulations when it comes to measurements.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I think some of it's, like you say, it's fat phobia, basically. Yeah. It's people being uncomfortable with it. Someone can be a size 6 and wear a bikini and it's fine. Or you could be a size 14 and it's just kind of like, because there's more of you and you're maybe more curvy than that person who's a size 6, and suddenly it's like, it's over-sexualized. I think that's an issue. And I think when you're talking about the Amber Rose slut walk, honestly, part of it makes me a bit uncomfortable. Like, I fully agree with what she's saying and the path that she's on, but I think for me it's really on the other extreme. So we have the world who's trying to tell us, like, you know, you should dress up or cover up or this or that when you're a certain age or whatever, and she's just trying to really push the boundary. And I think it's an important place to go, and I think it makes me uncomfortable, because as much as I might interact and I can notice something as fat phobic or sexist or ageist, I still live in the world. Like, I have had all these thoughts given to me as well. So I think what she's doing is really, really important. And I think there's space for all of it. Like, there's space for all of it.
But you could be there, so like you could turn up. Like, you don't have to be naked to go. The point is trying to. I wouldn't have a problem going to it at all. Like, because for me, I'm like, the female form should be celebrated. I'm just saying, because she's just like, guys, this is another conversation, but she will talk about whatever you wear, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be, you shouldn't be abused or assaulted or whatever. And I agree with that, but we can't get away from the fact that whatever you wear, people make a judgment based on it, and some people act to you in a certain way because they make an assumption in their mind. Now, the assumption isn't right, but whatever we wear does communicate something to somebody else. And it's kind of like, do I then say I'm free to wear whatever we are, which we are, even though someone might take advantage of that and then put me in a certain position? And I think it's a really difficult, until the mindset changes, we can do what everyone, and I think the mindset, there is a shift, but I think it's such a complicated issue.
I agree.
Yes, that's it. I'll agree. I'm with you on that, because I kind of sit on the fence with the slut walk. I'm here for Amber and everything like that, but I want it to include everything. So, like, if a woman wants to be called a whore, doesn't mind referring to herself as a hoe or a whore, she can. And if she doesn't, she can. And if she wants to wear nothing, but she wants to wear everything, she can. So I don't know much about the slut walk, but I hope the slut walk just leaves it open for every woman to have every choice, and that's what it's about. But I personally refer to myself as a whore, but not as a whore but not to be like, oh, well, whatever. But when me and my friends or my sisters talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're such a whore. You're such a whore. Like, it's just like another term for like girl. It's like, oh, you're a whore. So yeah, I don't know if I can speak on it.
I think it's really that there shouldn't be any slut shaming. That like if you like I understand what you're saying, Sophie. Like in an ideal world, the way that we dress wouldn't affect our perspective, but we live in the world where it does. So she's trying to like make a point of, if I come with my tits out, that doesn't mean I'm asking for it, or there shouldn't be a walk of shame. There should be a walk of no shame. Because why is sex sinful and why is nudity sinful and all of that stuff? So it is a conversation.
Issue, ladies.
That's a combo.
I'm telling you. What I want to say is that right now we are at the halfway mark for our show. So why don't you take a second and press that like button or that subscribe button so you don't miss one single thing that Ethnically Speaking and the United Melanin Group might be releasing. So go ahead and click now. Now, ladies, we've been talking about missing babies due to low fertility rates, and we've just talked about missing clothes and like, can you be too old to wear less? But what I really wanted to focus on was missing students. So 13 unnamed UK universities have come out and said that they could be closing due to cash problems related to coronavirus, but also because of a significant reduction in income from international students that might not be coming because, you know, we don't even know when we're opening up our borders. Now, this is all in spite of UK tuition fees that are rising every single year, and the fact that so many institutions are still saying that they are going to be charging full fees for courses that are going online for the next academic year. Universities are asking for emergency loans from the government, and the government has come out and said, if we give you a bailout, this is going to come with restrictions. Now, those restrictions could be universities only offering courses that have good job prospects, closing campuses, or staff cuts for senior level personnel. Ladies, it's a lot. I just want to know what you guys think. Like, do we think the government is taking advantage of the situation, or are they being fair considering universities should have and could have been using their money better?
Oh, do you know what? I'm one of those people who spends a hell of a lot in uni. And I did wonder, you know, I was like, where's this money going to? But do you know what? I kind of agree with the government. Reason being, we are in a society now where a university degree doesn't guarantee you a job, firstly, and a lot of careers, a lot of, you know, jobs, etc., don't require degrees either. I was doing some research on journalism, and a lot of people are saying now, you know, journalism used to be a job where you needed a degree in journalism, but now if you have experience, you can still get into some kind of area of journalism. So I think the fact that the government are like, look, you know, if we do bail you out, you're going to have to face some kind of restrictions, because universities are not as essential as they used to be. They were 100% not. So I kind of agree with the government on this one. It's weird.
You see, I don't know if I agree with the government bailing them out. And the reason why, well, first, I'm kind of confused about, because I was one of those people that unfortunately had to pay a very extortionate fee to go to university. And the whole time I was going there, I kept thinking to myself, where is my money going? Like, you're not giving me free books. You're not giving me a free laptop. I'm not receiving anything. I still have to spend extra. So I was kind of always confused about where my money was going. But the reason why, my general question is the miss money management. Like, what has gone on with these universities that a few months or maybe a year without X amount of international students would put you in such a financial crisis that the government needs to step in. Like, that would be my question, where's going on? But the reason why I wouldn't go for the government bailout, I'm not a university person to say, like, I don't want your money. But I sometimes feel like the government has such an agenda. So whenever they put like strings attached to something, even though it's like, yeah, okay, I guess it makes sense that you would only want to put money into something where people will come out and then get a job from, so that you're getting a return on your money. But in my mind, it's just another way for them to kind of control agenda, to stifle the arts, to just put their kind of thing onto university. And I think the less they can be involved is the better for me. I always feel like there's shady work when it comes to them. So I'd say it's involved.
That is exactly what I wanted to say. Like, for me, them trying to say we're going to say what courses have the best job prospects or are good courses, I'm like, and what is that what is that rated against? Against graduate jobs. So if I don't immediately get a job, then it's not a good job prospect. And you are right. The arts are going to be the first thing that suffers. It always is. And for conservatives or people who are rich, it doesn't matter to them, because you can pay for your child to go to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. You can pay for them to go to RADA, and then they can come home after that and stay home and live off your wealth until they get an opportunity. Whereas for people who are doing these courses at other universities and haven't got that access, and now you're going to be taking away courses that you think aren't going to get people an immediately high paying job. They actually said jobs that can help to rebuild the economy. And I'm just like, so this sounds like a dictatorship. Like, so if jobs that can help you are the ones that you're going to want to push and encourage, what if people aren't inclined that way?
Yeah. I think this is like a difficult one for me, because I guess I understand if universities are going to keep their fees the same. Like, it sucks, but I understand if you're going to keep your fees the same for a taught from homeschool course versus what you'd have in a lecture, because I can only imagine like how much you're losing from accommodation. And, you know, I don't think any international students are really going to be wanting to travel. And I think there was a statistic that said, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Chinese students bring in about 4 billion a year to universities. So that's going to be a big
just
drop.
In the UK. Just in the UK.
There we go.
Wow.
And
not
so
to mention their drip. Not to mention they bring along too, you know?
Yes, trust me.
That is so true. But so I can understand if you're losing so much here, so you want to at least keep this plain sailing. But then I've also been reading about fees going up.
Yeah,
and I really don't agree with that. Like, they're high enough already, if you ask me. Like, you're literally just setting up people who want an education, you're setting them up for debt. So to double that, or to just, it doesn't need to go any higher, basically. But I also think that the conversation of universities, should they have handled their money better, for me, is a separate conversation to, should we have expected them to survive a global pandemic? Like, are we expecting anyone to really survive this long without income? So I think if you actually want to do something good, I think there was talk of having pay cuts for the chancellors, which is a really good idea, because I think the highest paid chancellor in the UK receives £1,500 a day.
Yeah, so that works out to about $500,000 a year.
Over $500,000 a year.
And all these different things.
And what are they doing?
Do you know how long a student can last on 1,500? Do you know how long a student can last on your day rate?
My question is, how do you get one of these jobs? Is there
a university degree for that?
Do I need to
They're not giving these jobs out to everyone, but I think it's such an important question to be had. And do you know what, Luanda? I think you're so right. Like, when we're saying, should they have managed their money better, we're all seeing now the gaps that every organisation had in not thinking about what happens if I'm a restaurant and no one comes in for the next 3 months. Like, this is something that you would never even imagine. You would never imagine that no student would be able to come to the September term date. You wouldn't even imagine it. So I think putting blame on universities that they should have been thinking, we're in a situation we never thought we would be in, number one. But I think it's shown where we actually can't be relying on that 4 billion. Like, we can't be living hand to mouth. And what universities have been saying to the government is that we don't, because what the government is saying, if we give you a bailout, they provide 45% of university fees and whatever. And they're saying what we'll do is we'll give you 2021's money early. And universities are like, actually, no, can you just write it off? Because what about if things don't pick up then? Like, we're still going to be in the same position. Like, and the government is just I think they're using coronavirus to push their agenda on various different fronts, knowing that if people don't have money or power, they're going to be willing to accept anything.
Yeah, it's true.
That does make sense. The only thing I will say, though, is with like the mismanaging of money, none of us prepared for it, but it would just be in my mind that if you make a certain, and I know it's hard to say that like with restaurants and things that have happened, but I was just not aware that some universities were living so hand to mouth like this. Like, we need this year to happen so that this year can run. I thought maybe it's like a 2 or 3 year gap, as in, well, if we don't make money this year or we don't make X amount, we have 2 years on bank so that it would roll out. I was just surprised that in the space of a few months, or in the prediction of next year, that they would already need a bailout at this point. That was what was confusing to me. I was just like, I'm so confused at where the money is going. But then
what's the cycle of it?
The money is going to the chancellors.
I think it's 6 of one and half a dozen on the other, because I think that I don't want to say like I'm flipping sides, because I think it's both what Luanda said and both what you said, because when you get into that regular money, you just assume it's still coming. Like, so you're
why
just kind of
wouldn't
like,
you?
Exactly. You're like, so we can build a campus because we're going to have that money coming from our international students, and we can hire 3 more members of staff because, you know, we're going to get more students in, and we can do this because they're going to be buying food in the cafeteria. So we can make all these plans because we're going to get students in. We're a university. But now you're seeing that actually no one was saving a cash pot big enough for what if things go wrong. So when we're seeing cinema's going to go bust, this is going to go bust, you're just like, people need to start thinking we need a 6-month cash flow that we put away so that if anything ever happens, everyone can get paid.
Yeah, I guess I understand like Anissa's perspective in terms of how much universities take in each year. Yeah, like you guys didn't put some of that to the side.
Yeah,
not even 30%.
Yeah, just a regular. I start like a saving.
Yeah, because it's not just like first years. You have you know, first years, second years, third years. You have postgraduate. You have masters. You have all of these things. So I guess I don't know. I actually think the people at the top are really just trying to hold on to their money, because there's a really easy way of everything, if everything just gets sliced a little bit, not the students at the bottom paying more, but people earning $1.5 grand a day, just maybe not, and then you can ensure the continuation of your institution. But
guys, you know what I just saw? Oh, go on, Luanda, go on.
I was going to say, maybe I'm being naive, but I don't really understand, because you know how we were saying the government doesn't respect the arts, and that's something that we've seen continuously. I would have thought that universities are a top priority for the government. So I don't understand, if they are taking advantage of the situation, I don't understand what their motives would be. Like, why would you do that?
That kind of ties into what I was going to say, actually, because I think overall, over the last few decades, universities have seen less and less people going to them. So I think that part of their cash flow issue wasn't just simply the coronavirus. I feel like universities have been losing money because of the advances in careers and the different career options. So I think if the government did step in, they would want to ensure, I don't know, because, you know, okay, 10 years ago, there wasn't a dance course or a course on social media. But now they've had to implement new courses to kind of keep up with the way the world is going. So I think with the government stepping in, what they want to do is ensure, it always sounds like a good thing, but it probably won't be, because not everyone knows what they want to do straight out of uni, and not everyone wants to necessarily, you know, work in what they have studied, and it's just too much of a presumption on, you know, our next generation of talent. But I think that what the government want to do would ensure, like, teachers, there's a lack of teachers, there's a lack of nurses, there's a lack of doctors. So I think they'll probably put more of an emphasis on careers and courses like that, but who knows? But
the thing is, like, university numbers, I was looking in this article on the BBC, like, university numbers aren't really going down that much. Really? Like, they're saying they only really go down when the fees go up, there's a slight dip, and then they go back up again. And I agree that there are more and more jobs that want on-the-job experience or being entrepreneurs, but they're saying statistics show that the most money that people have access to, they get through having a degree. They're like, that's still, for the majority, the way that people are making money. So universities are still imperative in terms of that, and I think universities are diversifying the courses they offer, so like you said, they can stay relevant, and I think that's very important. But I think the government trying to have control as to what they're saying is more important, I think that is only going to see courses go down, because I'm like, well, what about if I'm not interested in finance or science and I don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer? Like, what then? What is there for me? And like I said, this is again for the government who aren't going to be facing these issues. Because if you have money, you can pay for your child to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But for people where
But they said that a lot of
might be their only
research as well.
access, then yeah. Sorry, go on, Wendell.
I think they're putting value on a lot of research courses to kind of, I guess, figure out cures and things like that. Or if something like this was to happen again, like how can we nip it in the bud quite quickly? But I think what you were saying ties into my idea earlier when I was like, okay, I guess I do have this idea in my mind that it would be bad to keep the course prices the same, but it would be understandable because in my mind, presumably, the quality of your degree is not going to lessen, right? Like, what your degree is worth is not going to change. So I understand the money staying the same, but I don't understand it going up.
I understand the money staying the same, but the university experience that I'm going to have online with my Zoom call is not going to be the same as being able to talk to my tutor, feel the atmosphere, go on a study.
No freshers.
Yes, go on a study break. Like university, for those who have gone, part of it is the lived experience of university.
It's true.
It's
It's
not
true.
so charging people full price for you to talk to me on the screen when you're going to give me a certain time frame. I'm just like, it's not the same. And I think it's taking the mick. Personally, asking us to pay £9,000, it's ridiculous. But I was one of the last ones who paid $1,300. So my student loan was like £14,000 when I left university, guys. It was low.
You are lucky.
You are lucky. Very lucky.
Guys, this is embarrassing. Like, this is absolutely embarrassing because education should be free, and we're like, oh, mine was only 14,000. Like, that's a small amount of money. That's not a small amount of money.
It's so crazy. And to think, like, when I just think about that, Scotland is literally our neighbour,
Free.
and it's free there. So I just always think to myself, what is going on here? That's what I'm always thinking. I don't get it.
That's so true. I think I had a friend in sixth form because it was like, whilst we were in sixth form was when everything changed, and we were like, okay, great. And she was like, well, I'm part Scottish, guys, Tenerife. Just gonna take myself to the motherland and I'll be okay. But I guess it's almost inevitable at this time when no one has any secure income for businesses and institutions and even people to be worried about what's coming next, and like where is your income going to be, and how are we going to make bank? And I don't know if you know already, but there has been a 42% increase on the adult subscription site OnlyFans. OnlyFans is a site where you can pay a monthly fee to a content creator, and they could be anything. They could be giving you fitness advice. There are a lot of fitness experts on the website, but what it's most commonly used for is pornography, nudity, videos, all of that stuff. So would any of you ever create an OnlyFans? And if you wouldn't, what is the most drastic thing that you do for money?
This is the thing. I would say in the moment, no, I wouldn't create an OnlyFans, but only because I don't know what I would be doing on there, because I'm not into the nudity or the pornography. It's not for me. Until I have a marketable skill like fitness, then that's the only way.
I thought you said thickness there, and I was like, thickness.
No, thickness. That's the only reason why I would be on it, because for me, I wouldn't do the nudity or the pornography or anything like that. But if there was something else that was marketable and people wanted to pay me for, then and I didn't mind doing it, then possibly I could be on OnlyFans. But I think whenever you create an OnlyFans account, there's a stigma around it anyway. So you can shout all day, I'm teaching people how to bake cookies, and people are like, yeah, naked. Like, there'd always be a stigma around what you're doing on OnlyFans, because people only associate it with like nudity. In regards to what the most drastic thing I would do for money, so it's so hard to say. I would probably say nothing that would put myself or others in harm's way. Like, I wouldn't do anything like that. But it's kind of hard to say what I would do for money, because there's so many things you could do for money that aren't good for you or great for you. So I would just, I know people would say pick up a job, but I would pick up as many jobs as I could. I sometimes find when people are desperate for money, they like a bit of an easy way out, and sometimes going for, because I don't know about you guys and how you've grown up and things like that or whatever, but being, I grew up in Peckham, honey, so not everyone had most people didn't have no money. So people was doing what they could to get money, and the idea of them going to go get a job in McDonald's or go and work as a cleaner or do nights they were not on it. It was like, no, I'm not doing that because there's a stigma with low skilled work again.
Yeah.
And they were like, no. So I'm rather going to do something else that may harm others or harm myself to make money. So it's a bit of it. I always feel on the fine line. I would do what I need to make money, but not in any way that's going to put harm to anybody else or to myself.
Yeah.
You are so right. And you know what? So I have an OnlyFans account. No, okay. Let me start again. When I say I have one, I don't really have one. So basically, when I started looking into OnlyFans, then about half have one. So I started looking into it, and you can basically create one based on your Twitter. So I was like, let me go and make my name before someone tries to do a Linda E OnlyFans account and try to say that it's me. So if you type in I'm Linda E on OnlyFans, I come up. There's nothing there. One day I might start putting my feet on there, but I was more like I didn't want any. No, because it happened before where someone has catfished me on a dating app. So I was like, you know what? Yeah. My boyfriend, it was my boyfriend, who's my boyfriend now, when he was my boyfriend, found it and was like, is this you? I was like, no. That ain't me.
Wow. You're doing that deep research, innit?
I swear. So I was like, let me go just protect myself on OnlyFans. But I think the problem is with OnlyFans, it is a stigma attached. And I think they allow over 18 content, and they're not going to stop that because that is where the majority of their income comes from. So, you know, it's true. Like Anissa said, you can be cooking, you can be sewing. Someone will presume you're doing it naked because you're OnlyFans. And if it isn't a monthly subscription, people can actually, you can get paid for messages as well. You can put up like wish lists for people to buy stuff for you. So it does really, it's very seedy. It's really, it's a bit uncomfortable when I deep it, but at the same time I know we're living in a situation where jobs are disappearing and things still cost what they cost. So, you know, do what you have to do within reason with regards to what your heart and your mind can live with. And I think for me, I'm with Anissa, like I will do what I need to do, but I won't put myself in harm's way. I remember like a few years ago, my friend and I were sitting in the office. We're like, how can we make some extra cash? Oh, do you know that people sell panties? We're like, So we started researching sites to sell underwear.
Worn panties or new panties?
Worn.
Oh,
I swear.
Warm.
Yeah, but they might as well be.
They are warm.
They are. They're
because
warm.
they've been warned.
Yeah, come on. No, but that's the thing. So there's a lot of, I don't want to insult anyone by saying weird, but there's a lot of fetish things that people can do for money. But for me, like, if times are hard, I will raggo work in McDonald's. I will raggo work in Asda. I will raggo go do a clean job. Like, if I need to provide for myself and for my people, like, I'm doing what I need to do, and I'll make that job fabulous, honey. You hear? So I think that's me.
But I think that's the thing, because I think what you're saying, which I completely am down with, is that you need to set your boundaries. Like, whatever job you're willing to do, like, what are the boundaries? If you want to start an OnlyFans account, what are the boundaries? What are you willing to do and what are you not willing to do? And I think with OnlyFans, if you are that hard up and you're doing it because you've lost your job, as I read, there was a BBC article about a guy who said he'd do it because he worked on boats doing songs and tunes or whatever. He got made redundant and he was like, I need to make money. He went on OnlyFans. Let's not go on like OnlyFans is a quick fix to money, because you have to put in the work.
You got to work hard.
That is a full-time job. Yeah, don't let people feel you like, oh, I'm just going to go topless and I'm going to be making 3,000. There's a lot of people on there, and you are going to have to work damn hard to make that good money. It's not no part-time job. Like, it's full in. So I think that's what you see with anybody who wants to do something that's successful. Like, there is no quick money. Like, there isn't quick money. OnlyFans, and I think people are now thinking that it's quick money, but people say now it's oversubscribed. With 42%, like you said, Luana, 42% of new people have joined it. It's oversaturated, and you're going to have to do what you need to do to step out from the market. So I don't know what that could be, but yeah. And I was a fishmonger. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes. That was after
I can't think of anything worse.
Do you know what? I was doing my A-levels, and like I saw this fishmonger job, and I was like, I just want to earn some, like, my £200 a month, which was big money when I was like 16, and it can allow me to do this and to do that. And my friends would come in after school and see me in the full hat and like the coat, the white coat, and like scaling all the meat and all of that stuff. But for me, I'm just like, when times are tough, you do what you got. And times aren't even tough. I'm just like, I'll do what I want to do because it's going to be my money. So people are willing to do a lot. You just have to be willing to make the sacrifice for whatever it is. Like if you're fine with your family members having that stigma surrounding OnlyFans, whether it's fair or not, then
Just do it, yeah. I think it's interesting what you said about setting your boundaries, because I think that with OnlyFans, the content creators, speaking more towards like people who are doing like porn content, they are actually in control of what they're putting out there. Like they have a choice to be like, oh, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do that today, I'm going to have this person film it, or I'm going to film it myself, or anything like that. And I think from that perspective, OnlyFans is now like a branch of ethical porn. There's so much madness that happens in the porn industry that doesn't happen if like people creating that kind of content are in control. You know, there's no middleman, there's no director, there's no like, and I can't even imagine like how we were like at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about, that patriarchy, that thing there. But can you imagine in a world where we already think that women's bodies belong to men and opinions of women's bodies should come from men, and then you're going to be in an industry that's creating sexual content again for men? Like I can't even fathom, especially when you're young, you can be like, you know, as young as 18 or even younger if you're with a dodgy one. I can only imagine the kind of trials and tribulations that you'd go through as a woman who's trying to be in the porn industry. So having OnlyFans kind of is just like, I'm earning money, I'm earning my money, I'm doing what I want to do, and you're not going to like, there's no hierarchy, there's nothing going on except for me, my camera, and my income. And from that perspective, I'm like,
I think that's so. I think that works on paper, but I think in reality, like was it the BBC did a documentary called Nudes for Sale? And whereas people do have and it was talking specifically about OnlyFans and people who are in that industry, but that content that people do is available forever and ever and ever and ever. Like whether you want to have that content out there or not. I read about this woman who did a porn videos, and hers were very offensive. She got death threats because of it, because she was dressed up as a Muslim woman in a hijab, and she was having in sexual encounters or whatever, filming it.
She's not religious. She's not religious.
She wasn't religious. She wasn't No, she wasn't religious. So, like, for me, that's why for me it's inappropriate, because I'm just like, okay, that's
not your culture. That's not your religion.
That kind of thing. But now she stepped away from that, and 8 years later, she still can't get the content back. So she was just like, it's just out there, and anytime anyone searches her and she wants to go for a job, it always comes up. So I think we have to be very careful in saying that we have autonomy over it, because we do, but are we going to want that in the public forum forever and ever and ever? Because once it's online, once it's on OnlyFans, like you might delete it, but someone could have already saved it and sent it to their friend and this and that and the other. And I think sometimes, and calling it ethical, ethical adult porn? I'd call it the ethical adult industry. Because I guess porn kind of sometimes gets a bad rap, but even OnlyFans has a lot of people signing up who are children, who are under the age of 18. And OnlyFans is not here to make sure that we have greater expression for ourselves for women. They don't care. They have 14-year-olds on there who are topless. Again, on the documentary on BBC for News for Sale. And they're not bothered about that. It's always a money industry.
14-year-old creators.
I saw a girl and she was 14.
That has to be illegal.
It is illegal. But they were like, OnlyFans don't really care.
And OnlyFans can't really regulate it. So if somebody reports you enough time, then they'll look into it and take your account down. But any 15-year-old or 14-year-old could sign up and just start making some money.
Yeah, and so
they should be able to they have to scan your ID. If you
they do.
You can scan IDs or other people's ID, but they don't. I watched what Sophie was talking about, and like one of the girls, she was scanning somebody else's ID, and they looked completely different.
Yep.
But it was like, oh well, money have to make. So
money have to make.
I'm telling you.
Do what you want to do.
And OnlyFans.
OnlyFans are thinking. They're thinking, well, money have to make. So I don't care if she's 15 or whatever.
Yeah, and this is my thing. When we're talking about women. When we talk about women having autonomy, it's again in a very male-dominated way, because On OnlyFans now, one of the biggest things that they're saying is by the influx of new people is that people are selling their content for cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So for people who might be making A-grade adult content, they're like, someone's going to be willing to come on there and undercut my subscription fee, which means that men or whoever's buying the content, let's say, they're just looking to get their jollies off at the cheapest amount possible. So you're again, take away from these people who are trying to have autonomy over themselves and over their brand. And now you're putting them in a position where I have to compete with these other people. What do I have to do now to push the boundary so that they're willing to pay for my content over that other person who's going to make it cheaper? So I don't think it's a straightforward argument. And I think that it's still not a money-making quick fix.
My question is very quickly to you guys. What do you think about celebrities jumping on OnlyFans? Because I saw, like, there's that reality star Safari in America, Nicki Minaj.
Yeah,
he said he made $100,000 off OnlyFans in 2 weeks. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of money.
What?
I want to see the receipts on that one, girl.
No, do you know what? I believe it.
Did Black China jump on OnlyFans?
Black China has one, Safari has one, Safari's wife Erica Mena has one. And now you got to remember, guys, firstly, these people already have a fan base.
Yeah.
Right? And with Safari, he is known for being well endowed. Yeah. A company have taken a mold of his long john and have turned it into a toy.
You're joking.
I swear down.
They said he made millions.
You did, Sophie. Sophie said yes a bit too many times.
Way too quickly. Well, I am aware of that, Linda. I am aware of that.
Okay. So, if he's saying that he made 100,000, I don't even need to see the receipts because there's a woman from the UK who isn't even as big as Safari and she was making at least like 30, 40K. I think it was close to like a month. So I believe, don't forget, unfortunately, even when times are hard, as human beings, we will still somehow find money to do things that brings us some kind of pleasure. Do you understand? Whether it be smoking or drinking or porn and sex. So I believe he made 100K. I absolutely believe it.
I think your point, Sophie, was just that like everyone focuses on the big earners, the big spenders of that site, but there's such a large bracket that not everyone goes into it thinking, oh, I can earn £34,000 a week, like let's go, but it's not actually going to be the reality. But I think what you were saying earlier, it's going to be like with any business, there's a demand, like the supply and demand, and then there's also competition. So it's going to happen. But also, I don't know if any of you know, like I don't know, so I'm genuinely asking, can you screen snap and screen record on this site?
They said that you can steal content from their site, but I don't know what content means, if that makes sense.
I don't know.
What are the protections? Because if I sign up, if I'm putting this on there, and then you can just screen snap and send it to your friends, and all your friends get it for free, like then where's my protection as a content creator? Like what am I covered? What covers me?
Nothing. It's the risk you're gonna have to take, but money have to make.
New slogan.
Money have to make. But I cannot believe we have just come to the end of episode 6. Like, how did that happen? Thank you so much for watching and listening to episode 6 of Ethnically Speaking. We have enjoyed every minute of it and we hope you have too. If you have, please do give us a thumbs up. We totally enjoyed reading your pet peeves, and one that stood out for us is someone has a particular pet peeve where they like to have boundaries when they are in the loo. So they do not like people talking to them whilst they're handling their business. I don't know what, I kind of get that, but I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I think I talk every single second of every single day.
You're the person they're complaining about.
Basically, I am the person they're complaining about. It's you. Don't forget, help us keep the conversation going. Comment below, what is the craziest thing you would do for money? And don't be embarrassed. I want to know, because like I said, I got OnlyFans is going to be showing my feet real soon. For a summary of all our content, do not forget to head over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES006. Other than that, we will see you the exact same time next week. Stay safe, stay alert, and stay connected with us. Bye.
Bye.